Same shirt as the last video because this is the second of 4 videos that I'm going to be filming today. I've been really busy over the last month and I kind of let myself fall behind. But I've got quite a few 10 years later videos to do because these were supposed to be done throughout the month of June, but then life got busy. Sorry about that. Either way, welcome back to 10 Years Later, the series where I talk about albums from the 2010s that were either impactful to me, impactful to music in general, very popular, or just worth revisiting 10 years later for good or bad reasons. And as you can tell from the title, the album that I'll be talking about today is the 2011 Bon Iver record, Bon Iver. It's self-titled. Bon Iver is an indie folk band that was founded in 2006 by the Wisconsin-based singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist Justin Vernon. The group first started making waves with their debut album For Emma Forever Ago in 2007, which was largely recorded in a cabin for 3 months and would go on to rank on several year-end lists, including topping several of them, where that album leaned heavily into the indie folk stylings for something very quiet and lonesome. This album moved in a different direction with much greater implementations of new instrumentation, and more influence from genres like post-rock and chamber pop. The album further catapulted them when it once again topped several year-end lists, but also received numerous Grammy nominations. Bon Iver would even surprisingly go on to win Best New Artist, upsetting several big mainstream names like Skrillex, J. Cole, and Nicki Minaj. Now, honestly, I'm not the most familiar with Bon Iver's entire discography. I know of the group for being very big in the context of folk and indie music, and I know that they've contributed a lot to music as a whole, but I've only listened to them in short feature appearances. For example, I enjoyed Justin Vernon's hook on Eminem's Fall, even though he has since disowned that song. And I enjoyed Bon Iver's contributions to Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, as well as Taylor Swift's recent albums Folklore and Evermore. In fact, the title track of Evermore, which features Bon Iver, might be my favorite song Taylor has ever created. Those short appearances made me interested in hearing this album, especially given that it's only 10 tracks and 39 minutes, so it's not super long. And that's not surprising. From my research, it doesn't seem like Bon Iver bloats out albums to oblivion. They usually just keep things short, sweet, and to the point. And that perfectly sums up this record. Short, sweet, and to the point. Much of Bon Iver's music feels as though it's very minimal. The writing is not as outward, it's more subtle in nature with a greater emphasis on the production and Justin Vernon's falsetto. While this is a completely different genre, I almost kind of feel while listening to this record like Bon Iver was kind of doing what The Weeknd did with House of Balloons. Again, in a completely different style, mind you, but with House of Balloons, I think what Abel nailed was atmosphere. Every track felt like it had a distinct atmosphere that you could picture exactly in your head, and I think that's what Bon Iver does with this album. The group works to create atmosphere and succeeds with flying colors. Perth kicks off the album in a way that's soft, but still pretty bright and orchestral with almost marching band-like snares and sunny guitar passages. It sounds really lovely, almost beginning the album in this very dreamlike state of peace and nostalgia. Minnesota, Wisconsin moves into a different direction that's a lot more plucky, with more pronounced guitar strums and even some well-crafted saxophone implementation. There's also some deeper, more bassy elements to it too, almost sounding like they give the song a bit of an industrial feel. The way it changes feels is also nice too. It intersperses these bustling, busy passages with lighter passages that almost feel like someone being in a rush, only to stop because they realize they don't need a rush and they can enjoy their tranquility. Holocene is a lot lighter than the past few songs, with light guitar strums and a Justin Vernon falsetto that makes the song feel a lot more airy and even heart-wrenching in comparison to the first few. The song does build into something bigger as it goes along, but it feels satisfying when it reaches that emotional climax. It already hits through the heart when you hear And At Once I Knew I Was Not Magnificent, but the way it pushes through as it reaches its final moments is damn near magical. It's a track that I'd honestly call a work of art, and you could see why it's been one of Bon Iver's most enduring songs. Towers is another love song, almost feeling like a folk soft rock hybrid of some kind. The song centers around climbing a tower for someone you love, and to me this song feels like running through a field with someone you love in the afternoon and then lying in the grass with them. For a minute, forgetting all your problems in life because you have someone special to share your time with. Michicant starts off feeling like a bit of a lullaby with its mellow guitar strumming and Justin Vernon's vocals almost sounding like a choir of some kind. The song does feel like it moves into some slight psychedelic territory as it reaches its final minutes, but for the most part, it's a soft jam that feels like it centers around nostalgia and lovely childhood memories. Hinnom, Texas jumps away from that, moving into synth pop territory and featuring a Justin Vernon vocal performance that actually moves away from his typical falsetto at some points. It stays pretty minimal throughout, but it almost feels like living in a city with a lot of nice landmarks and sceneries and visiting them on a nice sunny day, realizing just how nice your hometown is. Wash is one of the longer songs on the album, stretching almost almost 5 minutes, but it's worth that length. It starts off with this gentle piano passage, but as it moves along, it starts to add more dreamy orchestral sounds thanks to its other instrumentation. I personally love the violins. Even for as simple and low-key as the instrumental is, I think the song works in how it feels like a warm hug on a sad day. There's a real rawness and emotion to it that really captures my attention and doesn't let me go at all. Calgary has this spacey, almost echoing synth sound to it, but while the song works in the light sounds of the rest of the album, it also adds in some interesting bits of experimental electronic instrumentation. It does move into something a bit bigger, almost feeling like it blends some small elements of country and pop. It's an interesting track in how it blends so many weird elements that one might not think would work together, but they really do, making this feel like a layered, varied song with plenty of emotion to spare. I guess Lisbon, Ohio would be the only track that I'd consider a relative lowlight, and that's mostly just because it's only about a minute and a half long and entirely instrumental. Aesthetically, the song is stunning and it does have a moody, atmospheric sound with its blend of dreamy synth and electronic pings, but I personally feel like it comes and goes too quickly to make an impression. I would have liked to see the song get expanded into something more. Beth/Rest is the record's closer, and it leans far more into the soft rock vibes, with its synths almost giving it an old school vibe. It's a beautiful closer though. Beyond having that same raw emotional feel as some of the album's other tracks, I think that Justin Vernon's lower register vocals fit well for the varied instrumental. It's a very sincere track, one that feels almost sad and joyous at the same time, and I think it's easy to feel a lot of the love that went into it. And hell, even if Justin Vernon did include the song just because it sounded cool, well, he's right, it sounds awesome. Overall, Bon Iver's self-titled album just feels like the hug you've been waiting for way too long. It's one of those things where all this time you've been waiting for a specific hug from a specific person, and then you finally get it and it's the greatest feeling on the planet. Bon Iver put a lot of heart into this record, crafting an album that feels like it's oozing with love and emotion. Justin Vernon himself is a beautiful vocalist, whether he's in his lower register or his ever noteworthy falsetto, and a lot of the production works so well in how it creates different atmospheres and evokes a lot of different emotions. I felt while listening to this album like I could picture so many different scenarios to put these songs to, and I think the music paints a very vivid picture in regards to its atmosphere. To me, a lot of the best albums can succeed on that, and this is another example. I could see the appeal and then some when it comes to Bon Iver. This album is fantastic. Back in 2011, I'm not sure I would have gotten the appeal of this. I wasn't really listening to folk or indie music at the time, so this would have probably flown over my head at least a little bit. Listening to it now though, I've really fallen in love with it. If I had to put it on my scale, it would definitely get an excellent rating from me. As my first full experience with a Bon Iver album, this was honestly pretty magical and I really love it. But that's just my opinion on this record. What did you guys think about it? Did you listen to it back in 2011? Do you still listen to it now? Did you love it back then? Hate it back then? Do you love it now? Do you hate it now? Are you just completely indifferent towards it? Whatever your thoughts and opinions are, leave them down in the comments below. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe and support some of my other ventures that I have linked down in the description, thank you. If not, it's no big deal. I totally understand. Moving right along, as soon as I turn this video off, I'm going to be filming the next 10 Years Later video, which is going to be on Pitbull's Planet Pit. So exciting. So stay tuned for that, but until then, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.